Hey there, my name's Niandra. This is Mercy Commentary VOD where I play competitive and then talk about my plays. This is Junkertown at around 4050 SR, it's a win, and these are my final stats. I wanted to look at this placement because my performance starts off very rough but recovers during round 2, and also none of my teammates are being toxic, which happened in like half of my games. In the past, I was never one to use Superjump and I only learnt it a few weeks ago. My main hesitation was always, I don't want to become dependent on what is technically a bug. They can be removed at any time, even unintentionally, although we know Blizzard isn't on the ball when it comes to fixing Mercy bugs. Anyway, I finally learnt it after getting back into main account comp where I need all the utility I can get. And yeah, I'll admit, despite my skepticism, it's great. I know I'm slow here. Outside of that initial gimmick of first learning Superjump, I definitely think it should be used situationally rather than just all the time. I've done it myself and I've seen others where we're behind a wall and we Superjump, which leaves us more exposed than if we had just stayed grounded. I don't really use Superjump on the first round, but do later on, and it's definitely helpful for repositions.
4, 3, 2, 1.
I'll talk about my positioning in a moment, but I start the round by boosting Ashe, as she's likely to throw dynamite. I then move my beam onto McCree for healing. Once he's full, I start boosting Orisa because he's just not getting any hit markers, even though Ashe is close. She would have been the better target since dynamite should be ready again, and you can see me just miss it. With positioning, I didn't want to be cramped next to allies behind the shield and played right instead, using this wall for cover. I then kept moving my view to here and here to spot flankers, although with crouch limiting my movement speed, I would have been very vulnerable if someone had poked. Looking back, I am a bit iffy about this, but it does work out. I fling myself into the air, then realise I don't know the enemy team comp and if they have snipers, so I should just fall back to ground here.
Let me get you patched up. This is not your time. I owe you one.
So I finally see someone using that right side path and call it out, but my headset was up, making it very muffled and quiet. I stand still to pull my mic down and get shot by him twice because I am a huge dumbass. In a few seconds I'm gonna have a very weak Valkyrie, so our Orisa pushes up and I don't follow, so my beam falls off her and that might have been mistake number 1. Sometimes I like using Valkyrie to res because of health regen and faster speed, so I activate it here. My idea is we'll push up with it and that'll give me space for res, but instead my team backs off. This is completely fair because 1, I didn't communicate my intentions, and 2, our shield tank is the one who died. I probably should have started damage boosting earlier as well, let Ana have the healing on Roadhog and try to squeeze value from my ult by giving allies more ult charge. If it had been Roadhog who died and we still had the shield tank, I think that ult might have been okay actually. I hastily remove my beam off Ana as I realise I'm giving away her position while we both hide from High Noon, which is zoning us pretty hard.
We still need you.
I could have possibly super jumped backwards and play in this sort of area, or super jump to the ledge and escape. Instead, I just panic and fling myself deep into the enemies. I keep healing at Roadhog even though it's fairly obvious neither of us are getting out of this. Instead of giving him more health to feed, I could have damage boosted Hog or take the pistol out. This probably would have given me less ult charge, but that's fine. I remember looking at the scoreboard and feeling pretty anxious. If we're running Ana Mercy and I have silver healing, I am happy and very quick to go off healer, so we have that defensive ult. Then our Ana goes Niandra while I'm still kind of thinking about it, so I just stick on Mercy. Also, I resed at Ashe there, even though we're still 1 down since my team shows interest in pushing up to contest. Because my allies are in a crowd, I struggle to get my beam on Ashe, which prevents me from falling back to my earlier position of behind this wall. Man, with Discord on me, I just die so quickly, and luckily my team gets enough picks that it doesn't actually matter. I can't tell if I used Angelic Descent during it, but the little jump into the air is essentially what gets me killed. During enemy Hog ult, our Orisa is pushed far right, and maybe I should have just left this whole area by flying to her. I generally don't like staying in the same area for long periods of time, but I didn't have res ready and our Ashe was constantly low, so hesitations were there. I don't know, I've watched this death a lot and I'm just really conflicted on it.
Team up for special attack.
Our Ashe dies to Widow and I don't stop to think about it. I want this res immediately, enemy Widow isn't in view and that's good enough for me. I don't consider her grappling forward after predicting my res, which is totally in the realm of possibility. The tragic part is, if I had slowed down, I could have flown to Roadhog on the bridge and possibly rezzed with protection. Our Orisa Hog go Winston D.Va, and I'm a little mixed on it. I do really like playing Mercy with dive tanks because her mobility allows her to keep up very well, and Valkyrie's positioning control gives me extra space. The issue is, it is a lot more difficult to keep them stable since Mercy's healing nerf, because to play the comp correctly, the tanks both need to be aggressive. This then means both Winston and D.Va are likely to take a lot of damage, and healing 2 tanks at once kinda sucks for Mercy unless she's in Valkyrie.
He's behind.
Messing up that res was pretty demoralising, but it's entirely my own fault for rushing it. I thought I was pretty far away with decent cover, but honestly just glad I didn't die. I thought about rezzing Winston and using the machine for pretty solid cover, but so many of my screw-ups this round have been res related. If I hadn't died multiple times during res this round, I probably would have gone for it, but in that moment, I just wanted to play safe. I use Valkyrie because my tanks are pushing aggressively while we are down, but I'm a little slow in making my decision, and I do it just after Winston leaves line of sight. D.Va backs off after this and I heal her up, stealing potential ult charge from Moira, who has only just changed and needs to catch up. During a res, it can be good to reposition your camera so you have fly paths away from the area available for when res is finished. Doing this with my grounded Moira might have allowed me to escape this death. I thought about going Lucio because my performance has been poor, I have silver healing still, and my abilities are nowhere near ready. I don't know why I didn't, but at the very least I could have swapped off Mercy and swapped back to make res ready.
Complete. 3, 2, 1.
Friendly Orisa dies right off the bat, and I ignore the res because A, she died literally in front of our spawn, and B, our Bastion does not seem to care.
You have no Orisa.
I don't care.
So let's just pocket the hell out of Bastion and play safely until she returns.
Junkrat TV.
Damage boost engaged.
Our Roadhog dies and I play very cautiously, very slow, since reses have gotten me killed a lot this game, plus I was getting a decent amount of damage boosted hit markers as I walked over.
I'm taking care of you. Your support
Please
has
close.
arrived.
After we cap the point, I push forward and plan to damage boost allies like Widow, who are further up, then fall back to cart once the door is open. Plus Orisa's voice spam is killing me.
Stream engaged. Damage boost engaged.
Amplification matrix ready.
Where does it hurt?
No one can hide from a sight.
You should be at peak performance level. Don't stop now.
I push for the res and then hear 2 enemy ults go off, so I back off and commit to healing our Orisa, who is also pushed forward instead. Don't think I had a reason for damage boosting injured Hog over healing, but hey, he gets a pick. With that advantage and immortality field, I push up to res Orisa. I kinda panic Valk after being hit by the suck, but friendly Orisa also uses her ult, adding to my team's commitment to this fight. The stairs right. Our Roadhog dies, but that's about it, and we do really well this fight, even though it just doesn't feel like it. As I said in my last video, sometimes you have a good Valkyrie and it just isn't noticeable.
Protect the payload.
As Mercy, unless no one is on the cart, I am going to contribute so much more if I push up with my DPS, who intend to prevent the enemy from getting near enough to contest.
The payload has reached the checkpoint.
Damage boost engaged. Let's keep it moving.
Once again, I should have turned my view around during the res to allies behind me for an immediate fly path. I make it out alive, but barely, and I think the enemy diva bumping me actually helped. Ugh. Super jumping was a decent play, but failing to land on that upper ledge really screwed me. If I had landed there, my allies would have been below, but Baptiste was with them, which should have given me enough time to reposition.
No one can hide
Back in
from
the
my
fight.
sight.
Team up for special attack.
Ich kümmere mich dich.
Watch the payload stop.
You should be at peak performance levels. I'm with you.
Winston reporting.
Let's get you back out there.
They're down to
If they're down 2 and we're down 2, I'll res early to give us the number advantage, although I don't feel too good about this. The enemy team uses Genji ult and I'm ready to accept death until our immortality field is thrown down. I then activate Valkyrie because they work well together, knowing this is a huge risk. Since I can't out-heal Dragonblade, I possibly could have damage boosted more to try and kill him quicker, but can't really be mad about this Valkyrie failing, like I knew it could go either way.
I'm here.
I should have asked Winston not to heal in spawn because I need that ult charge back.
Damage boost engaged.
I might have been dead either way, but if I had walked backwards as soon as I heard the first syllable of Hanzo's ult and dropped down like this, I might have lived if some mines behind me had already been cleared.
Starting over from
Are you gonna heal me? Like, I'm right next to you. Not you.
This is not your time.
Get in. Oh, dude.
I'm with you. You should be at peak performance.
Let's get this moving!
I use Superjump, which removes my line of sight on allies, and I end up losing out on a second of healing because of it. I use Valkyrie the same frame our Baptiste is capped by a Hanzo arrow, so I hover around the corpse since res is almost ready again. Some allies push forward and I can't really go with them, which kinda sucks. I might have valked a little too early here since the enemy seems quite far back.
Right beside you.
I am moving the payload.
Hanzo's corpse is on the left and res is almost ready, but I get super distracted by the scoreboard and then the enemy Hanzo, so I unintentionally ignore it. Kind of a shame because that would have been nice high ground to work from. I use Superjump and end up hitting the enemy Hammond, which screws it up and just kind of messes me over. With the physics change, it can be super annoying to hit enemies while in Guardian Angel because either you just stop or don't go where you expect.
Damage amplified. Your support has arrived. Mercy for the righteous things.
I am very wary rezzing before a fight like this, but the clock is ticking and we've just hit their finish time.
You should be at peak performance level. Don't let up on them.
As I hide, I think about using Valkyrie once bomb is over, but our Doomfist dies and Diva is so low I know her mech will break during the activation animation. This could well have been a good opportunity to use ult since we are even, but I just could not bring myself to commit. There's a few points here where I could have used Valkyrie to get out alive, but I just didn't think it'd be worth it. If it's a choice between using Valkyrie to escape or dying with Valkyrie, most of the time the latter is going to be a better choice. If we had only 10 to 15 seconds left on the clock, then yeah, maybe I would have, but 40 to 35 is okay in my opinion.
Healing stream Heroes never die. Let me get you patched up. Ich bin da. Damage increase.
10 seconds.
Just running out of time. Attack!
Healing stream engaged.
I don't know where Genji is, I don't know where Zen is, or if I have time to turn around, so let's just keep pushing up.
Your support has arrived. You make a great team.
Fantastic super jump, but I couldn't really stay up there because my allies were pushed up and there are res opportunities. I would have preferred to res Winston, but D.Va's more off to the side and I don't want to take the risk, even with all the picks we have. Gotta say, with my rough performance on defense, I was feeling so much better after this attack round. A rough start doesn't have to mean a loss if you recognize you're making mistakes and you just take a moment to breathe and calm down.
2, 1.
They're holding spawn.
The enemy is apparently holding our spawn, which is actually a decent play. I've done this before in Junkertown defense and it was really effective. The gist is, if you know attackers are running Bastion, holding their spawn gives them little space to set up and work with. We end up spending 20 seconds of our minute in spawn making no progress on cart, which is very worrying.
Damage amplified.
30 seconds remaining.
Where does it hurt? Don't stop now.
Zen is one of the
Since we've cleared out the enemies on point and I haven't seen like half of the enemy team, I leave our carded Bastion to push up with McCree and see if I can amplify some more damage. Then they both die and I'm like, oh god, did we just screw ourselves? I then immediately look for our Bastion. If he's boosted behind a shield, that can probably make up for us being 2 down, especially when the enemy is staggered like this.
Kinda behind.
Let them out!
Kinda behind. One.
Where does it hurt? Damage goes.
Our Bastion dies, we're in overtime with some picks, so I just go for the res immediately. If there's one thing I've learned about myself from looking at this VOD, it's that I really need to slow down when it comes to resurrection. Just examine more of what's going on around me before doing so.
Valkyrie online. I'm with you.
You can pull one.
Heilstrahl aktiviert.
Please move behind the barrier.
When the match is in overtime like this, you can expect the enemy team to just throw out every ult available to get attackers off cart. They haven't used Dragon Blade or Nano, so when I see McCree flanking, I go with him to get some space from my team. I use Valkyrie when they Nano Blade, even though I know I can't out-heal it because this is probably it. I think about rezzing Widow but stick to healing instead because I can't leave my team and she most likely isn't going to do a whole lot here. I end up technically C9ing. Val can be pretty good at contesting if you dip down with a fly path, but the mines just kind of spooked me.
4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming. Stop the payload.
Be careful out
Never
there.
mind.
Back.
I've got you.
Holding top.
Let's get you back out there.
I do this fat super jump, but it's basically a reminder of what I said at the beginning of this video about staying on the ground being safer. I got hit by a Hanzo arrow while in the air, and I regen the damage easily enough, but it's still ult charge for him, and if that was a headshot, I could have possibly thrown the whole game.
Then right
side, kill him.
I use Valkyrie because both of our tanks are hurt and I just want to play this safe. Since Mercy can struggle when both tanks are critical, I think this is generally a valid play, but here one of our tanks is Roadhog who can self-heal. I was probably a bit quick on my usage, and it's not the best Valkyrie, but I keep my team stable and don't take a single bit of damage during it, so it's not bad either.
My ultimate is ready. Get in there.
Res if we get spade. Oh, good.
This is not your time.
Fully.
You needed a doctor? I'm with you.
I'm not picking kill him.
My ultimate is ready.
So I'm gonna bug in this fight.
We use Zen Ultimate to clear the mines, and I say over voice chat as soon as trans is over, they're gonna Dragon Blade.
Oh fuck, I didn't see this. God damn it.
And they do use it. Whenever Lucio or Zen use their ultimate like we did, and the enemy team has characters like Genji, Reaper, Zarya, always assume they're going to use ult once the defensive ultimate runs out, unless you know they definitely don't have it. Because why wouldn't they? It's free.
In the fight.
I might need this later.
10 seconds
Hold
remaining.
together.
Anyway, this isn't lost, and in fact it actually looks pretty good. They use their high impact ultimates and it's overtime. If we get one team wipe, we can win this.
You can bug go high. Just wait until they're in the pushing again.
Powered up.
Pull with it too.
Let me get you patched up.
Team up for special attack.
I'm gonna pull after
Big mix. You've got to touch, you've got to touch, you've got to...
got that.
Let's get you back out there.
I use Valkyrie and intend to just be my allies, even though we're 2 down because I don't think my team can afford me to leave the fight. Then we use Transcendence, which should give me time to res. At least one ally is hit with anti-nade, but at this point I'm kinda committed.
It's only ball game.
They Dragon Blades and I walk away from the cart. Either he has to follow and risk losing, or leave me alone. And there we go. Honestly, God bless to our Niandra who absolutely popped off during the last fight. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to slow down when it comes to res. Feel free to check out my Patreon and have a nice day.